What's up? It's Dave Reed from Tesla, and you're watching the Heavy Galaxy.
All right, Matt and John, we're back with everyone for another episode of the Heavy Galaxy Show at heavygalaxy.com. We're glad to have everybody back with us once again. And if you haven't done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube and all the podcast platforms so you can get all our episodes right at your fingertips. And today's guest, we're going to go to our nation's capital here in the U.S. from DC's heavy rock powerhouse trio, BORRACHO. We've got guitarist vocalist Steve Fisher with us today. What's up, Steve? Thanks for coming on and chatting with us today. How are you, bud?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. Well, let's get to it, man. BORRACHO, you got the new record on the horizon, Blurring the Lines of Reality. Coming out, I mean, this is you guys' fifth record now. It comes out August 18th on Cosmic Artifacts. You've got two singles now out right now. But before we get into talking about the music, I want everyone to take a look at that album cover artwork right there for the record. Normally, I'd ask you who did this really cool artwork, but as I've seen there, you guys actually, this is AI generated artwork. That's the first time I've seen one from an album cover. Obviously, it's a hell of a cool album cover, so it definitely did its job, man. So just, I guess, take us through the whole, I guess, process, Steve, in terms of why you guys decided to use the AI with the cover art, and just kind of explain to it how it all works, since it's something that a lot of us aren't really familiar with yet.
Yeah. Well, I guess it started off with a conversation. We were at practice one night and taking a break, and we're talking about how AI is, changing so many things. And a good part of the album is about social media and how computers are really, I don't sound like a conspiracy theorist, but kind of really taking over our lives.
Sure.
Social media and all that. And helping us form our opinions. So yeah, just it kind of tied in with that, the whole digital age. And so yeah, we're just kind of messing around. Tim, started messing around with AI and came up with several different covers, and we thought it was a good direction to go in. It kind of fit what we were doing for this album.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it definitely fits the album title, obviously, the Blurring the Lines of Reality.
Yeah.
Now, is this something, obviously, that you guys can then see yourself probably, using going forward? Because there's also, and I'll bring it up in a little bit here, but you also, I believe, there's another image that was, I think, generated for the single. Is that correct, too? Or is it just for the album cover?
Which
for the last single? Oh, sorry. The last one. The goddess one.
Architects of Chaos?
Burning the Goddess. Burning the Goddess.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, okay.
Or I probably saw it a while ago, but I believe that's AI generated as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we had a single a couple of months ago, 2 instrumental tracks. That cover was also AI generated.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's that.
Kind of fun to mess around with. Yeah.
Sure. There it is right there. Wow. Yeah. I mean, really, these are really cool, images, though. I mean, I will say they're really, it does the job. It's like you said, it's kind of, I mean, it's a whole nother discussion for another time. We'll skip that. Yeah. You can go there. I guess you could say that. Yeah. But we'll go back to talking about the music here. So Steve, let's talk about the first single now, Architects of Chaos 1, that came out a little while ago. Lyrically, obviously focusing on the socio-political side of things, that you guys as a band have been, singing about for a while, lyrically. It's also first of 3 connected tracks that actually takes up a whole side of the record, I believe. So, so talk a bit, I guess, about the whole Architects of Chaos concept, and with now connecting those 3 tracks. Was that something that you guys initially designed to do, or that just kind of come together when you were writing in the studio? Or let's talk about that a little bit.
It was more the music. Some of the riffs are very similar, and I just writing this music. You write music and you're like, well, that's kind of same chord pattern as that other one, but it sounds completely different. So that's where I kind of came up with the concept of a 3-part song.
Okay.
And then I don't know, lyrically the concept, just watching everything that's going on in this country and how we're so divided, and I hear the one side uses the the rallying call of I will not comply, and the other side says resist, and they're the exact same fucking statements.
Yeah.
Someone's pushing, like there's someone out there that's like, hey man, these are great catchphrases, and we're just going to pit everyone else against each other. And they're going to be saying the same thing, but they're so wrapped up in whatever that they don't even realize they're saying the same exact thing. So there's, don't believe in a conspiracy, but there are people out there that kind of push certain agendas.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, they want to stir the pot or whatever.
Absolutely.
But,
I don't even know if that's conspiracy anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Saying, I don't think there's like a deep state or whatever. I mean, I have my own concepts about the deep state, but so whoever it is that pushes these agendas and really divides the people by feeding them this exact same information, just worded differently, they're the architects of chaos.
Right.
These are unknown people, but there is someone out there that is doing this.
Absolutely.
And people eat it up.
They do.
Everyone is glued to their Facebook or their TikTok or whatever the fuck people are. People are glued to their social media, and they seek out. First of all, they seek out the news they want to seek out, the news that they want to hear. But then, we have these algorithms that just kind of, they like this, so we're going to push this. And people are no longer forming their own opinions.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous. So that's kind of where the whole concept came from. The music came first, and but then the concept of the lyrics, I decided to tie all 3 songs together lyrically too. Well, the one you can't really understand because it's in Latin, but
you wrote lyrics in Latin.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, you're one of the few people I know that actually used their Latin education.
Oh, I have no Latin education.
No Latin. You didn't take that AP class in high school?
No. That was I had this idea for the song.
Yeah.
I don't think I quite got onto tape exactly what I wanted, but I kind of heard this Gregorian chant and over the music, and so why don't I try writing it in Latin? And so there was it was hours like finding phrases that kind of made sense, that fit the narrative I wanted, and then like double checking everything, checking with my wife whose mother spoke Latin. My wife was very good at helping me make sure I'm making sense. But so I just had this idea, why don't I sing a song in Latin? It'd be kind of different. And
it's certainly different, yeah.
To me, it really does fit the music. It would have been easy to write, the normal screaming or whatever, whatever I do vocally. I don't do it, but I like to do different things.
Yeah, really dig, speaking of different things, really dig the first minute of Architects of Chaos. Really a different flavor.
Oh yeah.
How you kind of get the song going. I love the whole song. So let me make that point. But it's got a Middle Eastern obviously tinge in there. Who came up with that, and how do three artists create something that unique and then put it into a good fuzzy heavy package like many of us want?
I don't know, it just happens, That was, I wrote that intro, guitar, and Mario and I got together one night when Tim was out of town, couldn't make rehearsal, and we just started jamming it. And it just kind of evolved and took on a life of its own. Mario worked really hard at working out the percussion and the drums. I've always been into different kinds of music, but especially when it comes to different atmospheres. I love Eastern music. I love the atmosphere it creates. So I kind of knew I wanted to go for these sounds. The percussion, the intro percussion. I had a set of tablas, which are Indian drums.
Nice, yeah.
That I took in the studio for Mario to play, and he did a great job. And then I had had an electric 12-string that I just got. Ran it through electro harmonics, sitar pedal. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, wow, okay.
But yeah, just and then just layered all these guitars and came up with that sound. But yeah, I've always kind of I've always loved the Middle Eastern sound, and so I kind of get influenced by everything I hear.
Cool.
Well, it will creep into my music one way or another.
Sit back, relax, we got you covered. We'll tell you how to feel. We'll tell you what is real. Manipulation, bait and switch, with a comply. Exploitation, rich get rich. Instigation, lace and blade, alienation, taking aid, conspiracies that you hear. ready to fight. We control your mind. Manipulation, bait and switch. We're not complying. Exploitation, the rich get rich. Resist, instigation, lace and lay. We're not complying. Alienation, taking names. Resist, covert agendas. Political fronts. The future's written. Budgets go guns. Manipulation. Bait and switch. We're not complying. Exploitation. Rich get rich. Resist. Instigation. Lace and play. We're not complying. Alienation. Taking names. Resist.
Right on. I mean, I think rock and roll and heavy rock, it's always been pretty open to that. I mean, we can go back to, the Kashmir or whatever.
Yeah.
An amazing band that does music in a certain way that it just feels different. They use Greek instruments. Villagers of Ioannina City. If you haven't heard of them, check them out. They use actual old school Greek instruments as part of it, along with unbelievable guitar, mystical vocals, and so on. It's interesting what can happen, and I think a lot of people like it within our underground scene. Now, you live in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So you're living in a place that's got an amazing assortment of people living there too. So I could see where those influences would happen. How long have you lived in D.C.? Myself, I'm a Northern Virginian, right outside of D.C. Grew up there for 23 years before heading south. How long have you lived in the D.C. area?
I've lived here. Now I've been here, I guess 31 years. Jeez,
Wow.
man, that's a long time.
It is, Jesus.
I ended up here by chance. I was on a different path, and someone had different plans for me, and I just ended up here.
Wow.
Yeah, long story, but I was living in London, playing music there, and I got deported, and had nowhere to go. So I ended up on a friend's couch here.
Yeah, right on, right on.
Yeah, I mean, my musical background, we talk about different influences. I grew up in Africa.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I started playing music.
Interesting.
So I was friends, I
Yeah.
grew up in Kenya, and I was friends with a lot of Kenyan musicians. I was actually in the first rock band that Kenya ever had.
Wow, interesting. Wow.
And I was also in the first
That's awesome.
band.
Right.
But so, my influences are just all over the place. I grew up in the 70s, had older siblings, so it was always, Led Zeppelin, Kiss, Hendrix, Sabbath, Deep Purple, all that stuff was my early influences. But growing up overseas, everything kind of, I love different sounds.
Yeah. Did your dad work for the government?
He was a contractor with USAID.
Mine did. So, huh?
Yeah, he was a contractor with USAID. We're really not sure exactly what he did. He passed away in January and took a lot of secrets with him.
I know the feeling.
We have no idea what my dad actually did.
Okay.
He worked I think he worked in over 100 countries, something like that.
Wow.
Oh, one of those even. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad passed away a couple years ago also, and he was CIA for 31, 32 years. And I really don't have any idea. Well, he told me later on, about satellites. So the early satellite stuff in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't out in the field. But my buddy's dad, he lived, who was a son of a CIA, lived in Africa for a number of years early on in his life. So it's interesting. That really gave you a different little world.
I don't know if my dad was CIA or not. I
know. My dad's dead, so I can say it now. I was even saying it the last 10 years because he's so old, he didn't know anything anyways. Like, you know what I mean? Things move so fast nowadays. It wasn't like he was involved with the Kennedys. So, yeah. So you're in D.C. for that long. I mean, it's a fascinating, let's talk at least about the rock and metal side of DC has quite a history, and of course punk as well. Were you ever privy to go to any cool shows and see some of these legacy bands, or were they kind of down and out by that time? Or
like what bands?
Pentagram, The Obsessed.
Oh yeah, well I mean, old friends with Wino. I know Bobby.
Yeah.
There's a history there I'm not going to get into. So yeah, I mean it's a pretty tight knit scene.
Yeah.
I wasn't around when the Obsessed had their initial run.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see Pentagram until sometime in the late 90s, I think.
Clutch,
yeah. I mean, they were around in the early mid 90s when I was, going to the clubs that they were playing at.
Yeah. 930 Club.
Yeah, the old 930 Club.
Yeah.
It's. I don't know the guys in Clutch. I think I met Neil once years ago at a recording studio.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting little scene up there, and of course, you guys just recently played Doomfest, Maryland Doomfest.
Yes, we did.
So talk to us about how it was this year, and how long was your set?
Our set was, I think it was only like 45 minutes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to pack a lot of music into short sets. I'm a firm believer that no one wants to hear me talk on stage. So I don't like breaks between songs. I don't want anyone the opportunity to go to the bathroom or the bar. Mario and Tim hate me. They're like, "Whoa, we want to drink a beer." I'm like,
you're like, keep pushing.
Drink after the show. Come on. But yeah, it was I think 45-minute set. It was. We played the first night, and it was a good turnout. Great to see old friends.
Yeah.
Had a friend come over from Germany for the show.
Oh, wow.
We had, a lot of people traveled into town to see, well, not just to see us, but, come to the festival. It's a good time. It's kind of like almost like a reunion. As I said, we have a very kind of tight-knit scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or there is a tight-knit scene. I never really consider myself part of it, but I know everyone in the scene.
I know.
It's just it's like a big get-together.
Yeah, it's too bad Dave Sherman wasn't around this year. He's always a fun one to have to party with. And
yeah, that's certainly missed him.
Such a super nice guy.
Yeah, I knew Sherman for years.
Yeah.
26 years or something. You know.
Mm.
And that was also the first time I have been to Doomfest since the last time I played, which was when I was in a band with the Reverend Jim Forrester.
Mm-hmm.
I was missing him too. I miss him every day. I mean, the guy was my brother.
Mm-hmm.
But
tragic death, unnecessary tragic death again.
Yeah, and
Baltimore is a damn dangerous city.
It is.
And another person that was missing, a lot of people don't talk about, is Bruce Falkenberg, who was in the Hidden Hand. He was a bassist in the Hidden Hand with Wino. He passed away last summer.
Mm.
He was an old friend of mine. He owned a studio that my last band recorded several albums at. Both Mario and Tim recorded with him. So it was kind of a little depressing to be there as well, missing these three faces that was close with all of them.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's such a tight scene that you guys have really there. I mean, like you said, it's got such a rich history too of really this heavy rock, this heavy rock sound. I mean, obviously there's a lot of metal that comes out of there, but like we've been talking about Pentagram and Obsessed and Clutch, and these days you got obviously you guys, Freedom Hawk, Windhand. I mean, there's so many great bands just from the Virginia, DC, Baltimore area.
No, hold on. Freedom Hawk is down at the beach. So that's Virginia. A couple hours away.
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying Richmond.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
But I know, but that area, Virginia and Maryland, as border states, definitely a lot of stuff, Matt, is coming out of there.
Yeah,
for sure.
For years, it's been coming out of there. I mean, that's the thing. Well, I mean, what is it in your mind, Steve? That in your opinion, I should say, that really just makes that such a hotbed for this kind of music, that area.
Well, it's definitely not DC. Mm-hmm. DC is a weird environment for rock. Mm-hmm. DC has a history of the hardcore punk stuff, which is great. I mean, I love that stuff. I was friends with a lot of those guys too. But DC has never been a rock-friendly city until recently. Mm. I played in a band for 14 years in DC that was kind of shunned by the cool people. Mm. DC is just it's a weird, at least it was a weird place, back in the 90s, early 2000s. Very pretentious. Mm. I go, Black Cat is a great club. When it first opened, I go there, and it's kind of like the new guy in town. And if I went there with someone that was deemed cool, everyone would be my friend. I'd go the next night, and it'd be all the same people, but I wouldn't be with the person that was cool. No one would with me.
Wow.
Historically, it's a very pretentious city.
It's one of the reasons why I moved south. Is I just when I went to college, because I went to college at East Carolina University, which is in North Carolina, and I met other people. My eyes were open to a totally different kind of mindset, like not as pretentious. I mean, it was very high stress where I grew up as well. In that CRB scene, or you got to know someone kind of thing, is it's a little annoying to say the least. Yeah. Did you ever play the Bayou back in the day?
I played the Bayou once, and it was my previous band. And one of the women that worked there for like years, she'd been there like 20 years. She's like, "Your guys are the loudest band that has ever played here."
Wow.
If we played to an
You're probably a lot louder than when I saw Hootie and the Blowfish. I saw way back.
I wouldn't admit that either. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
You know what? I admit to my travels of music, of the styles along the way, even though I liked Iron Maiden, Hootie and the Blowfish was something back then, they were a little more underground, we'll say. Well, you know what? We talk about travels of music. What were your favorite bands or albums your senior year of high school?
Well, I never made it to my senior year of high school. so I can't
All
really
right,
answer
86.
that.
86.
When I was in high school, again, I had a very musical taste. Maiden and AC/DC were like on constant rotation. Yeah, I was a huge Hanoi Rocks fan. Lords of the New Church. A lot of punk, Dead Kennedys, The Exploited. I listened to a lot of Merciful Fate. Metallica's first two albums. No, I guess first three albums. Master Puppets came out in '86. So I was 16 in '86. I actually saw Metallica on that tour in Denver.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Before Cliff Burton was killed.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, my musical taste is just all over the place. Listen to a lot of reggae. Peter Tosh, Bob Marley. Just I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Always have been.
Mm-hmm.
My first concert was the Beach Boys.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
My parents took me to that. My parents, they listened to, in the early '60s, they'd go to coffee shops in Philadelphia and see like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So I grew up there constantly playing the Beatles, Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, stuff like that. And then my siblings destroyed me by introducing me to stuff like Kiss.
Yay.
But yeah, so like what was on rotation when I was in high school was just about everything. Generation X, The Who, Hendrix. Hendrix is always, that's like my one artist that I will, if I had to burn every one of my CDs or my records, the Hendrix stuff would have to stay. I would die for that.
So that's your Desert Island record then. Got it.
Classic stuff, man. So good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I wish I could pick out like a couple of albums, but it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And you were catching shows back then too? Back in the '80s, were you catching a lot of concerts at all?
Well,
or?
Living in Africa, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much you got back, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would come back here during the summer. Well, a couple of summers came back here, and like we'd lived in State College, Pennsylvania, just before moving overseas. So we'd always go back there, and there was, it's college town, so there was the student lounge. They had a stage there, and I'd go see bands there. I actually saw Dinosaur Jr. there when they were called Dinosaur. But yeah, I mean, the summer times, I backpacked through Europe when I was 16, and I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I caught a couple of festivals, and I just soaked it all up.
Nice.
I bet.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to England, when I was 17, I dropped out of school and moved to England to play music. And I just like, man, I was in heaven. I couldn't afford to go to most shows, but I saw Guns N' Roses before they broke big. Saw them at the Hammersmith Odeon. They're still nobody at that point.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, living in London at the time was great. Go to the Marquee, see Lemmy hanging out at the bar.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Lemmy was all over the place back then when he still lived in England. Like if there was a bar, he'd be at it. It was crazy. But yeah, so like moving there, I went crazy going to shows when I could afford it.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. All right, well, Steve, let's get into the second single. We kind of talked about it just a little bit before, Burying the Goddess. Now, I mean, this just came out obviously a couple of days ago. It was just released. Now, normally, I mean, personally, like when I see a song that's like, like this song, just under 13 minutes long, a lot of times you got to sort of like, all right, you got to prepare yourself for a bit of a journey on some of these songs. I mean, just in general, right?
Yeah.
But this track to me, I think really signifies what the band, what BORRACHO is to a T, in my opinion. It's a long one, but it doesn't seem like it is. And, in my opinion, I think it's the best track on the record, even it is the longest, which is very rare for me. But, I think it's because it really hones in on what you guys do so well, which is really just coming up with those, 2 or 3 catchy, riffs or hooks within your songs, those groovy hooks you have, and you guys just really let it ride. Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't get old. I mean, that song could go 20 minutes long. I wouldn't get sick of it. I mean, it's just you really. That's the one thing about you guys as a band is you guys really know. You squeeze out every little juice out of those riffs and hooks that you guys got, and you let it ride in the song. And I know sometimes bands they'll play a 4-minute song with a great hook, but I sometimes think they end it prematurely, but you guys do the exact opposite. So when you're, writing, is that really how you guys structure the songs in terms of, how long it's going to be? I mean, when do you realize, okay, we're going to stop or we're going to, no, let's just keep writing? I mean, how does that work when you guys come up with some of these, really solid long songs?
I'm not really sure how to answer that. I've always liked long songs. Like music has been my drug. Oh, that's how I, go out into space is listening to music. So long songs have always appealed to me. But I like long songs that don't necessarily feel long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll listen to, have Pandora on or whatever, and a song will come on and I'll be like, man, this song is long. And I'll look at it and it's like, that was only 4 minutes. It seemed a lot longer.
Uh-huh.
I would rather, I don't want to write a long song just for the sake of being long.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I want my music to actually say something. I'm not, being a singer and a lyricist is kind of a new thing for me.
Mm.
I've always wanted my music to tell a story. So
okay,
you could, my vision is you can follow the music and it'll take you on a ride somewhere. So you're not necessarily, focusing on how long the song is. You're just enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm.
As far as writing, on that particular track, I wrote that, during lockdown. So, I wasn't seeing Mario or Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And I just demoed it here in my basement and sent it to them. And it's pretty much, how I demoed it is pretty much how it came out on the record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we changed the arrangement much. But yeah, writing is it's a process that I try not to think about too much. I think if you think about it too much, then it'll sound forced.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to have many parts within a song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to think about it too much. I just want it to kind of come out. And, that's how I write. That's how we write. And usually
Right.
I write the riffs. I'll take them into practice. We'll jam them out. And we'll, come up with arrangements, and we'll rearrange everything a dozen times. I'll add parts. We'll decide some parts aren't working. It's a whole process. But the thing is, it's not. We try not to overthink it. It's all about feel.
Mm-hmm.
My whole approach to music is it's all about feel. I've never had a lesson, a guitar lesson. I can't read music. I learned how to play. I literally learned how to play on stage in clubs. I started playing music when I was 14. Started playing clubs when I was 14. And like learning how to play bass, watching my brother playing guitar on stage.
Mm.
So it really became about feel for me. So like I said, try not to overthink things too much. Just kind of let it flow.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. I think on between these last 2 records now, and I was talking to John about about this before you came on here. I think you guys have really sort of, I would say, I don't want to say really found yourselves, but I think these last 2 records, you guys have really created sort of your own now sound, where, you've got a lot of influences, as we've been talking about. You've got a lot of influences from all over the place, but there's not really with your guys' sounds. There's not really one influence that I think that stands out above any other. Especially when like I said, what you've done on the new record. Obviously, as you said, you've been adding these Eastern influences well into the songs. But like I said, I know the last two records to me just seem a little less maybe fuzzy than the previous ones, and a bit more like crunchy, and just obviously way more groovier and just kind of bluesier. And I just really feel like you guys have really now in these last two records just like really created your own sound where that's a Borracho sound. It's not like, oh, well, it sounds like this band or that band. Would you agree to that? And if so, I mean, was that sort of intentional at all? Did you like what? Because we were talking about, me and John was saying the last record, was phenomenal, and this one really just follows in the same footsteps. Musically, in my opinion, obviously, maybe with just some added elements that we've been talking about. Is that sort of intentional? And do you guys feel like, okay, yeah, this is really who we are now, especially, because now, especially that you're singing now too, like you said, it's kind of fairly new to you as well.
Yeah. I try, it's something I don't really think about. I don't know. I don't want to repeat what we already recorded. But like I say, I don't really think about these things too much.
Okay.
It's all about, just feel. I can't really explain it.
Well, you guys got a cool, unique sound. Everyone, when we try to describe you to others, thick.
It's hard. It's hard.
Riffs, fuzzy.
Thick,
fuzzy, powerful.
Those
words I use.
My initial goal with this band was I wanted to sound like if Black Sabbath was recording Pink Floyd songs. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. But I don't know, we just write music. I will never hear the music the same way you guys hear it. So I can't really, to me, it's, they're different albums. They sound different, different grooves or whatever, but I don't really, I don't know. Like when we recorded Pound of Flesh, by the time we were wrapping up in the studio, I'm already focusing on the next album. Ideas coming up, and just I kind of get ahead of myself, I guess. I think I have musical ADD. I'm tired of these songs. I got to move on and start writing other stuff. That's why I like my influences. Everything I hear, I'm like, man, that's the greatest thing ever. I got to buy everything by that artist. And then 10 minutes later, I'll hear something else. I'm like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever. It's a serious problem, actually.
I bet.
But it's trying to put too much thought into I put a lot of thought into the production of the albums. I don't really try to compare them at all. I just, it's what we do. And it's great that people you are digging what we're doing, and you hear a difference. I guess you hear either us settling into a certain groove or evolving in a certain way. That's great. I love to hear that because I have no idea whether it's happening.
Yeah, I think production wise, it does feel for me very similar, and that's a good thing. Meaning the clean. I don't know what it is. There's a certain sound cleanliness to it that just works. So I'm a humongous believer in all your stuff. I've been listening, even before Riffography, which you did with Ripple. They kind of put together a bunch of your EPs together. That was some great ass stuff. Me and my high school buddies have been listening to you guys since we found you back in the 2010s. And we brought it up to him the other day, and we'll get to why I brought it up to him in a little bit. And when you played Maryland Doomfest, how did you determine your set list, old versus new? Are you anxious to play the new stuff where it's predominantly that, or?
A lot of it is we look at how long our set is.
Yeah.
And this is the one area we are very professional. We are on when they want us on, and we're off when they want us off. Where there's no, we're very professional about that. We pride ourselves on that. But yeah, we just we figure out what songs will fit into a certain time frame, and we discuss, what kind of feel we're going for that show. Right. Do we want to do more spaced out stuff, or do we want to do more kind of straightforward rock? We've been varying the set a lot lately, so we've been pulling out older songs, so which is fun. It's great. Yeah, I don't want to forget how to play all the old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's we decide on the sets, but like how it flows, what time slot we have, and just what we want to play.
Mm-hmm. before, we were talking a little bit about Serpents of Secrecy, the band, obviously, with Jim Forrester. And, and I actually had, I interviewed when the last album came out, Mark and Todd for that. And I remember it was a real, probably to this day, one of the, if not the most emotional, interview I've ever done. Obviously, I know that was a very, they were telling me that it was such a cathartic thing just to get that record out because of, what happened. But, I mean, and obviously we've, like I said, Jim's obviously a legend in that area. And, keeping his legacy, going is always something that I think should be done for a guy like that and how important he was to the scene. But now in terms of the music, I mean, those, records, that's some great music you guys put out, and unfortunately, I think sometimes that kind of maybe got overlooked because of the tragedy and just what happened, and people maybe probably it got kind of, I don't want to say it was under the radar, but I just thought it should have gotten, a little bit bigger than it did. Obviously, I know you couldn't obviously tour for it or play for it or anything too. That didn't help. But when you're writing for Serpents of Secrecy compared to BORRACHO, I mean, what's the difference, if any, between those two bands?
Well, the big difference is those guys called me up and asked if I wanted to play with them. And so I joined the band. All that material was already written.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't really, I added my own flavor, wrote my own guitar parts, but the songs were already written.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't really have much to do with that other than, kind of adding my own twist to certain things in the studio.
Okay.
You guys play a few live shows?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys play some live shows?
We played 7 shows.
7 shows. Northeast primarily, or just DC, Maryland, or?
Played Baltimore, DC, and Frederick, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a shame, it was like, it was a dream playing with Jim. I knew him, the first time I met him was in '96. Wow. And had just always admired his playing. And it turned out he was just a really awesome human being. Such a sweetheart. It was a dream playing with Chuck as well. I've known Chuck for just as long. And Todd's a great guy too. And then meeting Mark's just one of the funniest guys you could ever meet. Extremely talented vocalist.
Yeah, great vocalist. Yeah.
I mean, I love those guys. It's just, unfortunately, some asshole decided to murder my friend, But I mean, I was very, I felt very lucky to be asked to join that band. I mean, just the talent in that band. Yeah. I love the challenge, but I went in there going, man, I'm not going to be able to keep up with these guys. So it was a great experience.
I'm sure that was exciting.
Sorry?
I'm sure that was very exciting, for sure.
Yeah.
When you think for BORRACHO, have you ever done a tour, or has it been years?
I mean, the last real tour we did was 2014 when we went to Europe. Played Desert Fest.
Nice.
And we toured for a couple of weeks, but nothing too serious. I mean, we're all a little bit older. I have a family. Those guys have careers. Mario has a family. My last band I toured a lot with. So I've done all that. I love it, but it's kind of gotten to a point where it costs a fortune to go on tour.
Well, yeah, that too.
To pay. And I shouldn't say no one wants to pay, but I mean it's very hard to break.
Yeah. It is. The numbers are tough.
Yeah. And I was self-employed for 11 years. I had my own shop, and I was the only person at that shop. So it was, if I wanted to stay in business, I needed to be there. So it's much harder to take off on tour.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, if the right opportunity came up, I would jump at it.
Right.
I miss touring. I love it. I used to live for it. You know, if I didn't have my kids and my wife, I'd probably live on the road.
Sure.
You know, I'd be right there alongside Wino.
Right.
Probably not
Yeah.
playing clubs as big as he's playing, but you know.
Right. Yeah. What are some of your favorite bands that you've done shows with over the years with BORRACHO?
Oh man, so see there again. You know, I have this like, oh my God, it's the greatest band ever. No, oh, they're great. Yeah. Lopan is just one of the most incredible bands, and just incredible guys too. I don't know. There's so many good bands that we played with. It's really hard to say.
What's the biggest band you've played with?
I guess Fu Manchu probably.
That's cool.
I guess I don't know. I don't really. I don't know. I guess Elder's pretty big now, at least in Europe.
Yep.
I mean, we played with the Obsessed. No, that was Serpents. Played with the Obsessed. We played with Spirit Caravan. Now I've played with almost every Wino project over the years.
Right on.
And I guess the Obsessed is a pretty big deal now.
Yeah.
Yeah. They sound better than ever right now. He's really put a great lineup together and has another extra guitarist now. And I had him last year for a Vegas Rock Revolution show, and they sounded unbelievable. And they sounded sounds like they're kicking a lot of ass right now. So
yeah,
it's good to see Wino keeps pumping away.
As far as I'm concerned, everything Wino touches is gold. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, he's got some great guys playing with him. I've never met them, don't know him personally, but I know that they certainly add to what he's doing. Yeah. But you know, even if he was doing it on his own, it'd be gold. You know, what can I say?
Oh, he played he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He played a solo acoustic for Planet Desert Rock 1.
Yeah.
And it just captivated the room, you know?
Yeah. You know, I used to think about Wino. I'm like, man, he's like a mix between Tony Iommi, Lemmy, and Jeff Beck. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty accurate, but then it's not accurate at all because he's Wino.
He's Wino.
That's all.
Yeah.
Wino.
One of a kind. Yeah.
I told him he's the Johnny Cash of Doom. He loved that when I told him that. He loved it. I'm like, the man.
I was in a band briefly. It's funny you say that. Just brought up a memory. I was in a band briefly, and we rehearsed in this house where Sherman lived, and someone referred to Sherman as the Paris Hilton of Doom because he's just like everywhere.
Right. Right. When Paris was like, you couldn't escape her, you know?
Yeah.
No one knew what the hell Paris did. But she was
nothing, really. She didn't really do nothing.
Doing blow in bathrooms.
Oh, there you go.
But besides
Shouldn't
that.
say nothing, you're right.
Yeah. What would be your dream tour, Steve?
Oh, man. My dream tour, like if I could do whatever I wanted, I would love to go on the road with whatever Wino's doing at the time and Elder.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, those are great guys too.
Yeah.
I've known them for quite a while. And, you know, when we played in Germany, Nick came out to see us, which is great. But yeah, they're just a band that I really admire. They keep on evolving and doing different things. And, you know, they're just great musicians and good guys, you know. It's, you know, I mean, to me, they're still kids. I met them when they were kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be musically, I think it'd be a great mix.
Now, what if you were to look at the mega bands, you know, the big bands? What would be, and this somehow or another, someone hooks your music up with this band and you're offered, and you don't even have to pay to play, and you get to do at least part of a tour, what band would that be?
Oh God.
I know. See,
man, you gotta ask these hard questions. Make me think.
we're not generic here, man. We're not taking it easy.
I mean, yeah, what comes to mind is like Metallica, but I'm just not into what they do these days. I guess ever since Cliff Burton died, I just kind of lost interest in what they were doing. I'm sure what they do is great. I just don't follow it. I mean, you talk about like mega bands. Like, who are the mega bands these days?
Corrosion of Conformity? Maybe we could.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, well, you said mega. I'm thinking like.
Yeah, I know.
Aiden. I'd love to play with.
Now you're struggling with it, so I thought I'd, give you such a. Yeah. What a Tool.
Yeah, that could be cool. I have some bad memories associated with Tool. Nothing to do with them, but just some bad memories. So it's really it's hard.
Is it from the song?
Sorry.
Is it from the song "Hooker with a Penis"? Is that what's bothering you? I'm sorry.
Oh no, from what inspired that song.
Oh man.
Yeah. There's a story behind that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's.
Yeah, I mean, COC would be great. I'd love to play with them.
Yeah, that'd be a good
I'd love
matchup.
to play with Fu Manchu again.
Oh yeah.
We played with them a couple of times. And really nice guys, but just I love that band. I've loved them since Action Is Go came out.
Bringing the riffs.
Sorry?
Just bringing the riffs. Bringing those riffs. Just.
Yeah. I did an interview the other day with a British magazine, and I actually referred to Fu Manchu as like the AC/DC of stoner rock.
Yeah, I can see that.
They are so good at what they do.
And simple.
So consistent. And you know exactly what you're getting with them. And it's brilliant. I mean, AC/DC is I can't say a bad thing about AC/DC. I love that band. I was actually, in my teenage years, I was obsessed with AC/DC.
Which one better for you?
Which
vocalist for you better?
Well,
Bon or Brian?
Scott. Bon.
Okay.
But it's just they've stayed so consistent. They stayed true to the roots, and they were just consistent in putting out great music. And Fu Manchu is the same way. They don't, I don't say they have a formula, but they don't. You just know exactly what you're getting with them.
Yeah,
it's always great.
Totally.
Is that a philosophy you kind of use now with when you're writing for BORRACHO? Because you guys, it's kind of the same thing. You guys you're very consistent. You know what you're going to get with the band as well when a new record comes out. Is that something that maybe not maybe you're purposely thinking that, but maybe just innately might register?
I think we certainly have a style of writing that is consistent. I guess our work ethic is pretty consistent. How we work in the studio. Like I said, I don't hear my music the same way that you do. Unfortunately, I never will be able to hear my music.
Right.
So it's hard for me to
say, sure.
Are we consistent? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so anyways, I referred to Fu Manchu as the AC/DC of the stoner rock world. I think it's pretty accurate.
I wouldn't.
It's pretty fucking.
I would agree with that. Absolutely, absolutely.
And if they ever hear that, I mean that as the highest compliment.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be offended.
To think about it. I don't think so. Well, they come from probably a punk background, a lot of it. So you remember back in the 80s, a lot, not everyone, but some people, metal or punk, and I know a lot of people in the stoner rock scene that never liked metal, period.
Oh, yes, a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're like anti-metal. And then years later, they're like, oh, Iron Maiden is pretty cool. Judas Priest, wow, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? It's funny to watch people evolve. Even if you look at the band Caius,
Yep.
Josh to this day swears until they recorded Into the Void that he had barely ever even heard a Black Sabbath song in his life.
Yeah.
And he's just a few years probably younger than us at the most.
Yeah.
But you know, because they wanted to listen to punk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Brant was a little bit the same way for a while.
Yeah,
also.
the Desert Sheen was very punk oriented.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They said
mean,
Nick,
that really started to take
believe it or
off.
not, liked Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, dude, you go ahead, Steve.
I would say, you know, that whole scene really kind of, you know, started to gain ground in the early 90s when, you know, metal had just become so cliche and so more about fashion than actual music.
Yeah.
But I get where people like shunned metal. I mean, the majority of the bands getting airplay in the 80s did a huge disservice to metal. And they weren't
late 80s
metal.
in particular.
They were pop bands. Yeah.
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 I mean,
the late 80s.
Yeah. To lump a band like Poison into metal is just, I mean,
MTV. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But so, you know, I think they were coming from a, you know, just a little bit behind us. So, like, you know, we had the influence of the early 80s, you know, when metal was actually metal. They kind of probably came of age when that was all going sideways and becoming more of a fashion show than anything.
Yeah.
And I can see where, you know, people are like, I can't stand that stuff.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't.
MTV. Yeah.
Well, MTV was one of the biggest, greatest factors of metal. But then the big labels decided we're gonna cash in. We're gonna broaden our audience by playing music that women are gonna like more, which did all the fashion rock, as you mentioned, where guys started literally the guys wore more makeup than the fucking chicks in the audience. A lot of times, it just got ugly.
I mean, every scene eventually becomes very formulaic and cliche.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's starting to happen to our scene right now.
Do you think so, huh? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to have.
I think
everyone's got to have.
It depends
this amp. Everyone's got to have the beard down to their belly. Everyone's got to, you know, it's a certain look.
True.
And everyone's got to do like, I don't know. A lot of people are going for the same guitar tones, not finding their own way. And it's not necessarily that. It's no fault of their own. I think, every genre of music, it starts off great, and then the more momentum it gains, younger people get into it, and they, when you're young, you try to copy artists. I was talking about this the other day, about how, I was asked about our sound and how we sound a lot cleaner than a lot of bands, which, okay, I don't really know, but I think it boils down to our influences versus, these bands that are in their 20s, their influences. So my influences are the same as, I look at the beginning of our scene. There were 4 bands that really stuck out: Monster Magnet, Caius, Fu Manchu, and Sleep. Now, those bands back then were, nobody knew who Sleep was. Caius was barely known. But they all sounded very different, but they all had the same influences. And, and I come from that generation. I have the same influences they did. And so that kind of seeps into your music, your influences. So those bands went on and had success and gained this momentum, and they've influenced these younger kids. What they're taking from it is not what we took from our influences. So they're going for a certain sound. And that's when, everyone wants to, when you start off, you want to sound like Caius or whatever. And there's so many young people that wanted to follow that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I was the same way. Every musician's the same way. You start playing music, you want to sound exactly like your idol. But it's kind of gotten to the point where I think there is a lot of, I don't know, the scene is almost becoming a caricature of itself, in a lot of ways. I don't want to put the scene down because I still love it.
Mhm.
You know,
I think you need to hear more.
I'm sorry?
I think you need to hear more, Steve. I think you need to hear more music.
Well,
I'm just the man to help you with
yeah,
that.
maybe. There's a ton of music out there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
maybe
there is.
But I mean, what I've seen is that there is a, you know, the beard is now the hair.
Like you mentioned Elder. So Elder, for instance, is part of a movement I call the new wave of heavy psych. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, a little more airy, a little more open. Like King Buffalo is in there as well. All the Witches. Like bands that have elevated are like, you know, really playing in front of a lot of people now. But they don't necessarily draw upon, you know, Sabbath, Sleep. I mean, actually, I tell people when they say Sabbath, I'm like, well, Planet Caravan sure sounds a lot different than Supernaut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sabbath had that variety. And Caius, you got 1 Inch Man 1 minute, and, you know, the next minute you got something very different.
Yeah.
But they had that certain sound of the, you know, the guitar tone, I think, really. And it, you know, distinctive vocals by Garcia. But you look around now, and that's part of, you know, our job that me and Matt do here, and then on another show is we try to, you know, expand the audience and expand people's knowledge of what's out there. It's not just, you know, the ones that are brought to the top automatically.
Yeah. Well, I think about, like,
you know,
like about a handful of years ago, like 4
ahead,
years
Matt.
ago. So I noticed, a lot of it was, everything was Sabbath oriented, driven. And it just, I started thinking, it's starting to get a little stale. But I have noticed, like me and John just mentioned, last couple of years was, I think, just as my opinion, but we're seeing definitely more of a 90s influence, whether it's an alternative or, influence or grunge influence. I think that's really starting to play really into the scene. And Steve, like you mentioned, obviously, and that'll probably ride for the next couple of years or so. And then things will start probably becoming, sort of homogenous and not really fresh. And then something else will come along to influence or whatever it is. But yeah, I can understand what you're saying. John just mentioned the heavy psych thing is really becoming the new big, sound with some of the younger kids, like you said, in their 20s who are into this music.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I mean, there's people discovering
every genre goes through this phase.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just whether it does become a huge cliche or becomes so much of a formula.
Mm-hmm.
If you can avoid that, then it will evolve into a beautiful thing.
Totally. And I think it is fascinating, Steve, for guys like you and me, the same age, and Matt pretty much the same as well. The 90s influence, I look at the 90s, I say that was the last great rock and roll generation that was allowed to succeed in many ways. Like literally, I don't even, we were laughing about Hootie and the Blowfish earlier, but, literally you could have the Gin Blossoms or Hootie and the Blowfish or Weezer, but then you had Helmet, Tool, Caius, Monster Magnet, Corrosion Conformity, and there's a lot of music coming out that has some of the grunge-like tinges. Alice in Chains, another one that comes in. Even Nirvana, I'm hearing some seep into what I would call the heavy rock scene.
Yeah.
Which heavy rock expands a little bit bigger than stoner. And there's bands utilizing some of the regular 90s rock we heard because they wrote fucking good songs back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like they're literally songs you remember, and they have guitar that's churned up. That's another thing I'm noticing on the radio and stuff sometimes. What little I listen to is, for whatever reason, they don't want the guitar up as loud anymore. I don't know why people are so scared.
Yeah.
But fuck 'em.
It was the record labels deciding what was best for us,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's labels, they're the root of all evil in America. I'm a firm believer in that, and that's why we they control and put what the masses are hearing, man. And it's just it's why we've lost a lot of footing in rock and roll. But we try to help out along the way, and we pick these things from all over the place. The world is really putting out amazing music.
Yeah.
rock and roll wise nowadays. Are you any bands stuck out to you nowadays?
I'm sorry.
Any bands sticking out to you nowadays? Besides Elder,
You put him on the point on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm just the worst at this.
To be honest, the past few years I haven't really picked up a whole lot of new music.
Yeah.
Unemployment being one of those factors, so you can't really afford to go out. I don't believe in. I'm an album guy. I don't like just picking single songs. I like the experience of an album. I want to hear where that band's head was at that time, and that's I believe an album tells a story. So to me, like, I don't download songs off the internet. I just don't. I buy albums. That's the enjoyment I get from music, is listening to a whole experience.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, I haven't picked up a whole lot of new stuff lately. A lot of what I really like are the smaller bands that we play with.
Yeah.
And that I end up becoming friends with. They'll pick up some stuff that, like lately I've been really getting into this band Glow Sun, and they don't exist anymore. They put out a couple of albums. They're from France, and they're very psychedelic, just incredible band. When you can find their albums, they're very expensive. Like, I've kind of been going back to some of my other roots lately. I've been listening to more punk rock than anything lately.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I kind of go in waves. Like I said, I get influenced here. Yeah. But I kind of have been digging backwards lately. I listen to a lot of The Damned, Killing Joke, Devo. I've been listening to a lot of New York Dolls. So I really do. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Buster Poindexter, David Johansen.
Oh yeah.
I should really get out and discover newer bands. I mean, there's some younger bands, in the DC area that I really like. There's these. They were kids at the time, and I think they're too young to drink. This band called the Druids. There's Druids, I think, from Texas, and there was the Druids from DC.
Yeah,
great band, and they just kind of fell apart. I don't know what happened to them, but they're like, they're all young, and they're just like very
What's your take on one of the most polarizing bands out there, and they're from Baltimore, is Turnstile? Have you heard of them at all?
I am not familiar with them at all.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I barely am myself, man.
Okay, well, check them out. I'm interested because it's a very, like I said, it's a very polarizing band. You either love them or you hate them. It's one of those, and I think they were nominated even for a Grammy this year, so they're up there.
Yeah. So it's funny how the bands from Baltimore and DC that are nominated for Grammys and are huge elsewhere you never hear of them in DC and Baltimore.
In the area. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, and like you said, and hopefully with, because like you were saying, you're not much of a singles guy. And because we've got the revival of vinyl, it is something that hopefully will get a lot of the, some of these younger, rock fans back into experiencing music the way we did, which was picking up that, that album cover and reading the liner notes and just getting into the whole experience, because there is nothing like it, and it is nothing.
I think this younger generation is really missing out on an experience. Music is to be experienced, not just
I agree.
It's not to be listened to, it's to be experienced.
Totally.
That's how music is for me. It's an experience. I will, every time I hear Voodoo Child, I will just it's an experience to me. It's like the greatest things. I'm like a kid. It's like the first time I've heard it, every time I hear it. But it's really, looking at liner notes, I don't know, I think we've lost something in the digital age because everything's at our fingertips now.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, when I was a kid, you had to really like do research, buy magazines,
going to record store hunts, and yeah.
You'd see an album cover and be like, that kind of looks cool.
I'll pick it up.
Exactly.
Totally.
That's Generation X for you. I think there's a lot for these generations. Like we're such quiet. We're so quiet in some ways. Generation X. Obviously, I'm loud, so I speak for it. No, but we're stuck between two really audaciously large and pushy generations. But X, we were the lucky ones. We had one foot in old school.
Yeah.
But yet we ushered in every bit of technology imaginable. The process of listening to an album, dude, I even remember listening to a fucking 8-track. My mom and dad had a Montgomery Ward 8-track record tape AM/FM thing for years. I even took it with me to college, and I'd pop in the Bee Gees' greatest hits and have an impromptu disco party.
My introduction.
Again, maybe I shouldn't admit that. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, right, Steve? That's what you're saying. Yeah. I never got the Village People's 8-track. I never got that. So
I can't say whether you missed out or not because I didn't. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I'm
trying
to bust that story out now with you.
I was part of the Disco Sucks movement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's I got sucked in at age 7 to 11 or whatever the fuck it was. But man, after hearing Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, pretty much a whole lot of love. Hendrix's Foxy Lady. Like those two songs just kind of changed my life. It just was like this wake up call in the back of Mom's car, just driving down the street to the store. I'm like, this is the fucking weirdest thing I've ever heard, and all at once I want to hear it again. So we're on this journey, and we just hope that there's more and more people get back into rock and roll because they don't know that there's actually music out there being made for people like us, for Generation X. 2 bands right now that have hit the charts, Rival Sons and Queens of the Stone Age. Those are, and Queens of the Stone Age just blew up Glastonbury, the festival there, and many people think it's one of the best outings of it. Their new album, it's way better than the dance trash, in my opinion, that they put out last. And it goes to some roots of rock, and Rival Sons is firmly implanted on a 70s base of writing. And, we can just only hope that, people pay more attention to that. Hell, even the band Royal Blood, their latest song, is fucking rocking. Like, it's not, overproducing, sounds pussy-ish and everything else. It's moving and grooving along. Yeah. So all movements happen, but they don't always happen with a bunch of 40, 50-year-old Generation X. Yeah. But luckily, others are listening, some along the way. And when you got guys like Nick and those guys from Elder, which, I've known them since, right around that time. I saw Elder open up with Spirit Caravan.
Yeah.
With 20 people,
I almost traveled to Ohio to see, it was Spirit Caravan, Elder, and Lopan.
Woo! Nice.
Yeah. And I just couldn't swing it. That's a long drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
That was like my dream show right there.
That is amazing lineup. I saw the same lineup, but Moss Generator was on there instead. Moss Generator, I always messed it up, which is a very cool band. Tony Reed is an amazing musician. Yeah. You ever been to Vegas?
No, I haven't.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, looks like we're coming out.
BORRACHO coming to Planet Desert Rock Weekend 4. This is the first soft announcement of a band I've really given, along with, Sasquatch we kind of talked about. And I'm really excited to have you guys and handpicked for a reason. We're going to have a good time. I hear I get you for a day.
Yeah, I'll come out and get you in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, that's
Good. We're gonna
You
fucking
ever been to jail?
yeah. No. Well, no. Waiting cell. Thank you for bringing it up. No jail, Steve. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Okay, I'll behave myself.
Oh yeah. Well, you'll see. It's a fun and cool vibe, and the other bands we got coming, we'll announce later, are all good time bands as well. And I'm excited. It's January 25th through 28th, 2024 in Las Vegas, and the two venues will be announced pretty soon as well. They're all high quality venues that we're gonna have good sound guys coming out. Just for the one guy in particular coming out for the show has done sound for all kinds of bands of our ilk all around the world. So really excited to have BORRACHO come to Vegas.
We're
And
excited to do it.
I'm going to show you a good time while you're here too, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see.
You gonna get me thrown in jail?
No,
probably don't jump.
the goal is, hey, I kept Wino out of jail. He stayed with me in my condo for 3 days or 4 days. He did wander to the streets. He did go back to my condo, and some reason or other, I even let him in the lobby. I was surprised, quite frankly. And he said the only thing he was thinking about taking a piss somewhere once, and he got scared because he didn't want to get arrested. Oh yeah. Me and him spent a few a little bit of time together, get to know each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I met Mario, God, a number of months back or earlier this year or last year for a convention, and I got to hang out and took him to Count's Vamped, and yeah, we partied it up, and I think it's gonna. You'll know some of the bands as well. I mean, obviously you know Sasquatch, probably at least know of them.
Oh yeah, we played with them,
and those guys throw down.
Yeah.
and there's no shame, and I think they're one of the best bands. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they played Desert Fest London the same night we played.
Oh, cool.
That was the first time.
And they're a band that has some 90s influence on their sleeve for now a decade plus.
Yeah.
I told him the first time I heard him, I go, dude, you kind of remind me a little bit of Chris Cornell, some on vocals. And he's like, that's the biggest compliment you can give me. He goes, and he was a Garcia fan as well, but there's some good vocals in the 90s. And I think my man, what you do as a total musician, it's smart, good shit, man. Like lyrically, your vocal tones and everything. I mean, you're not trying to sing like a bird, but we don't need it always that way. But you're not some grumbling, bumbling, screaming guy either.
Well,
because you want your lyrics heard.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm never happy with my vocals. Still trying to get used to being a singer. You figure after 4 albums, I'd be used to it now, but
that's all right.
Something I never intended to be.
That's the same with Keith from Sasquatch.
Yeah.
He said he got tired of the singers quitting, so he finally just stepped up to the mic and tried it one time.
Yeah.
And his band said, "Okay, you're."
I just drew the short straw. That's how
that was, yeah.
Come on, put a mic over there for Mario on the drum kit.
I would love to, man. He is so terrified of. He won't sing. He's just.
But man, the band can bring the groove. On this album, it's unmistakable hearing his style in there. Mario's, he's got a little Latin American kind of flavor going on there for good reason, obviously. And it just, I think when in this side of rock and roll, sometimes it's the attention to detail for fans to pay attention. Because if you go back to Black Sabbath, you go back to Led Zeppelin, the reason why they were what they were, besides amazing songwriters and singers and whatever else, was they wrote songs where each instrument was heard and had parts to it. And I think you guys accomplished that.
That's one of the reasons I took up the vocal duties is we could have added someone else to the mix and it would have changed what we do. Well, could have changed the dynamics to where we would have broken up too. But I think all three of us are key to the sound. Like, we wouldn't sound the same without Tim. We wouldn't sound the same without Mario. We're all very important pieces of the puzzle. And
that's the key. And I think that's rock and roll. It's not about the fucking producer, creating the right sound, putting the vocals at just this right thing that you'll never be able to duplicate live without backing tracks. The fake rock out there, and I live in one of the hubs of that here. One of the top producers in all of like Octane radio rock, as I call it, that heavy rock. Are out of here. It's a father-son combo. I mean, we're talking like a who's who of who's done their sound and their everything there and got it produced. And it's just for me, it's cliche and it runs a different rail. I think there's the heavy rock that comes from the 70s, 90s influence, and there's a heavy rock that comes from new metal influence. And I think we couldn't be further away from each other at this point in time. Kind of like our society. I just don't see the paths crossing anytime soon. But we'll throw a couple curveballs along the way at Planet Desert Rock, very possibly, but nothing too crazy. I'm not going to have Screamo in here. Sorry.
Speaking of Lemmy, there, Steve. Also, I noticed the way you sing with your mic kind of up. Is that sort of taken after what Lemmy style?
Not really.
Okay.
It's. It wasn't a conscious,
deliberate.
It wasn't deliberate to try to be like Lemmy, because no one can be like Lemmy. It's more. I'm actually an extremely shy person, so if I'm singing to the ceiling,
you have to look at the crowd. Yeah, true.
I don't have to see other people's. I don't have to see how people are reacting, because I always expect the worst.
So I could stand in front of you at the show, and I'm a little taller, maybe. I don't even know how tall you are, but I'm taller than everyone, it seems. I could stand there and you would look up at me, you think, or would you close your eyes?
I just close my eyes. Most of the time I'm playing, I do have my eyes closed.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Totally.
What's the problem with having no hair is I sweat and it goes right into my eyes, so I'm kind of blinded. But yeah, it's Lemmy is a big influence on me, but that's not why I sing that way. It's more. It's more to not restrict my airflow.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But it's really, I think it boils down to when I started playing music as a teenager, and I would sing backing vocals. I was very shy.
Just shy, yeah. Okay.
And, I just started doing that, and if people think I'm doing it because of Lemmy, that's fine. I love Lemmy. Motorhead, huge influence. I actually got to jam with Lemmy's son once.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, back in Kenya in the 80s.
Oh, wow, really? Interesting. Damn.
Yeah, he was there.
I was gonna say, what is he doing in Kenya?
He was there on his honeymoon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Friends of mine were friends of his wife.
Okay.
Probably ex-wife now, I guess. But my band had a weekly show at the local casino, and he came down and got up and played a bunch of Stones songs with us.
Oh, very nice.
Wow.
That's my claim to fame right there. That guy Lemmy, I didn't play with him.
By his son.
Once the story's gonna be repeated that Lemmy did that with you. It's that's the way it worked. Our minds are disappearing.
Yeah. Let me play with my son. He's only 5 years old.
There you go.
Well, man, Steve, thank you so much for being on the Heavy Galaxy Show with us. It's been super cool to get to know you.
Cool to get to know you guys.
And look forward to seeing you next January as well.
Yeah,
and dude, the album rocks. Steve, the album rocks. It's got to place really well. I would hope the upcoming No,
Doom Charts.
we already have Doom Charts. Doom Charts. Was it June or July? When did you release? The album's not out yet.
It's not yet. That's
Is it
August.
July or August coming out?
It's coming out in
August.
August.
That's going to do really well.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
It will.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I hope others like it.
Mhm.
Yeah, man.
We'll see.
Where should we send the listeners to keep up with everything with the band? What's the best spot for them to go to? I know. I guess you're not much of a social media guy, but
see, this is why I shouldn't do interviews, because then you ask questions like that, and I'm like, I don't know.
So social media, you guys get all the social media spots everyone can check
yeah,
out, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually not very good with technology, and social media it's great to pretend like I have friends, but it's not really social.
Sure.
For me. So yeah, I'd say Facebook, I guess, Instagram, one of those things.
Bandcamp, so they can listen to your music and potentially purchase some music. I think that's key to a band as well.
I see. I need Mario and Tim to at least give me a scripted part.
That's all right. I'm here to pick it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
John's picking up for you.
Bandcamp, folks. They're on Spotify, of course, and Spotify listens. The more they get on playlists and everything else, the higher up they get, and next thing you know, who knows? But they're not getting paid much of anything. But if you go on Bandcamp, there's all kinds of goodies they have in stock. So check that out, and of course, Apple Music, all the other ones, they're all on there as well.
Help us with our plans for world domination.
There you go.
It needs to be funded.
Yeah, and it somehow or another we got to blur the lines of reality to do that.
Yes. Well, in social media, you don't need, you got the AI stuff anyway, right? Steve said, "I'll help you out. You don't need to know it."
Yeah.
And nowadays we're smoking a lot of weed, so anything helps. Yeah, but you're in a legal place as well, right? DC's legal, right?
Yeah, and Maryland just became legal as well.
Oh,
cool.
Although I do not partake in that.
Washington, Vegas is legal as well.
Yeah.
Nevada for 5-6 years now. So that's right. You don't have to partake. It's not for everyone.
I'll stick with my beer.
There you go.
Occasionally.
Yeah, I know you got good taste. Good. You got good taste right there. I like a good Blue Moon for sure. Well, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of that beer. We totally appreciate it, Steve.
Absolutely.
Folks, check out BORRACHO.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Anywhere you can. Yeah, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, Steve. Thanks.